Hi everybody, and welcome back to another big day here in American government. Today we're going to talk about interest groups. It's a relatively short set of slides, but hopefully you'll find the topic to be of great interest. Good one. All that humor aside, we come to the question of why lobby? Well, the logic of lobbying is relatively easy to understand. People who want to influence the decisions of government understand the advantages of getting together and asking powerful friends to help them out. By joining together, individuals can show greater power than they can by themselves, so it happens naturally. Again, we join factions, we join teams, we try to work together to make things happen. Similarly, government officials can see the positives of lobbying as well. Lobbyists provide all sorts of useful information to them. They can provide public opinion information, technical information, and even help draft bills. Politicians can't be experts on all the issues, so having someone who can help them out with this is a natural fit. And obviously, when there's a need, we end up with a professional lobbyist. Capitalism takes over, fills the void. People who have the connections and know how a bill really becomes a law have quite a bit of power and can influence the right people. This is worth a great deal of money to a great number of people, which is why you see so many former government officials going into lobbying for very lucrative careers after they retire. But that's not to say this is without problems. Remember back all the way in the first set of lectures when we talked about the idea of collective action problems? Well, going back to Mancur Olson's, or Manny as I call him, his famous book, The Logic of Collective Action, we know that incentives to join groups depend on the group itself and the cause people are joining. Additionally, someone has to organize the group and find the resources to pursue the cause. Only certain people like to organize groups, and it ends up being a huge amount of time spent on a project. The example from the textbook here is oil/gasoline. Oil producers have a much stronger incentive to form a lobby group than do people who buy gasoline. Compare millions or even billions of dollars of profits to an oil company versus you paying an extra 10 cents a gallon at the gas tank. You can see there's not a real incentive for people to form a group or join one if it exists. But for companies, there's clearly an incentive to invest a few $100,000 in a lobbyist to maintain those massive profits. Additionally, we have to solve the free rider problem. This involves people who don't contribute to the collective good, but who get to partake in any of the benefits. We know that some kinds of groups form more easily than others. For example, smaller groups are easier to organize than larger ones. Similarly, interests with a lot at stake are easier to organize than people with little at stake, like we talked about earlier. However, these two things are often inversely related, making it less likely that groups will form, and explaining why small groups with narrow economic interests dominate Washington, D.C. As an example, we have an alumnus of the political science department who lobbied on Obamacare on behalf of public hospitals. He spoke to students about how his organization didn't really care about 99.9% of the bill, but they cared passionately about a couple paragraphs inside the bill. So they lobbied hard on those paragraphs, making sure that they ended up with favorable policy. This type of narrow interest can be easy to organize, but it is especially true when the bill is as significant as something like the ACA.